When your boss admits he's taking credit for your work, what do? One employee decided to step back, follow the rules, and let everything fall apart without lifting a finger. Hello and welcome back to the Karma Stories podcast. I'm Rob and I hope you are having a wonderful day today. In today's episode, we've got a mix of quiet rebellion and full-blown chaos, including a 14-hour road trip of pure passive-aggressive compliance, a coin-related showdown in the Aldi parking lot, and a reminder that if you're being graded on a bell curve, maybe it's time to stop trying so hard. Let's jump right in. This story comes to us from Vague Ambiguous Name. Boss took credit for my work. Malicious compliance occurred. A few years ago, I was hired as a manager to create the contracts department of a tech startup. My boss was on an opposite coast as me, and we barely spoke. About a year in, the company hired consultants to overhaul debts, except for contracts, because it was running so smoothly. I was truly proud of this. The company sent me on a paid trip to the Bahamas as a thank you. After I got back from vacation, I asked for a raise to director level. My boss said I just wasn't there. I asked for a list of what I would need to do to be a director. He sent me a list which was everything I was already doing, and basically admitted that if I was a director, he would no longer be able to take credit for my work. Friends told me I needed to either leave or put up and shut up. Instead, I chose to kill with kindness. I wholeheartedly apologized to my manager for overstepping, and said that I'm going to step back into the manager role. I printed out my manager responsibilities and posted them to my desk. Things went south quicker than I could have imagined. We started missing sales targets. Product said my boss agreed to a term in an agreement that would completely destroy their budget and product rollout. My boss didn't know commission agreements and let sales manipulate contracts, so we were paying commission on contracts with termination clauses. I only interjected once to stop a contract amendment from being approved because my boss was unknowingly letting a VP artificially inflate sales numbers. The controller and CFO had to get involved. Eventually, the CEO was called in. Stories started circulating about my boss holding stress balls and cursing in meetings. I was more relaxed than ever, and during my newfound free time at work, I studied for and obtained professional certifications. I would also leave work early to get to the gym before it got busy. About a month after I unloaded my added responsibilities, my boss gave me a 7% bonus. It was unspoken, but I could tell he wanted me to take back on the director responsibilities without the title, but I continued to follow the manager description to a T. 6 months later, after taking 10 days of my unlimited PTO, I was included in layoffs. Took 3 months off, and then got another job at a 35% salary increase. While I am happy to be making more money, I truly loved the company and people I worked with, and it's defeating to watch someone continually take credit for your work. Jumping down to the comments on this one, we have one from a user called AppropriateRip9996. It says, "If you put me in my place, I'll stay there." Another commenter down below called Taped Butterscotch 025 said, "FYI folks, this concept is called work to rule. It's also common in places where there is a no strike clause, like many public agencies, but you want to show your discontent. And normally, it's very much supported by the union because you're still technically doing your job. Nice OP, congratulations on the raise and new gig." So what we're getting here is that OP's boss didn't want to do any of their own work. They wanted OP to do it all for them, and then wouldn't promote them because they were too valuable to him not doing his own work. Did I get that right? See, the issue with this is that too many people in the lower positions are just willing to roll over and take it from the boss because they think they're working their way up the ladder, when in all reality, they're just doing somebody else's work and not getting paid for it. Have you been in a position like this? I'd love to hear from you. Comment down below. Some people love to enforce the rules, right down to the tiniest detail, but when they get paired with someone who's really good at following those rules, things don't always go their way. This story comes to us from the guy who stole your... I'm not allowed to break the rules? Okay then. This happened to me a while back, but just came back to me. I used to work for an armored car company, something I did for a few years when I was in university, and waiting for a position in what would be my future career. It was good money, and lots of people did it as their full-time jobs. But I wanted more out of life than a mindless job. Because I was classified as part-time, I did not have a set shift. I mostly covered for people when they were sick, took vacation, worked unscheduled shifts, or worked shifts created specifically for part-timers. All in all, I was working full-time hours almost every week. Most of the full-timers loved working with me. The way the company worked, you were set for a 13-hour shift. However, if you managed to complete your run in less than that, you'd still get paid the full shift. I was young, moved fast, and didn't care about breaks if it meant I could get paid for 3 to 4 hours to sit at home instead of working. So whenever I took over for someone older who was just on autopilot, I could get their coworker home in a fraction of the time. One of the full-time workers, a real Karen, let's call him Kyle, was just the worst. For some reason, he took it upon himself to tattle on people for anything that he didn't like. If someone weren't wearing their collared shirt under their sweater, run to tell management. FYI, working in the summer heat in a literal metal box wearing a bulletproof vest makes you want to shed layers. Someone wearing black instead of blue pants tells management. Someone wearing a company hat that has the company logo but is not official uniform tells management. No one in the company liked Kyle. Well, one week, Kyle's coworker has taken vacation, and my boss schedules me to replace him. The run is pretty easy. It's commercial day shift, so 90% of the stops are retail stores with less than a few $100 in cash. Because of the amount of money, no one has ever had a problem with one person jumping out and running in, grabbing the money, and coming back while the second person, usually the driver, stays with the truck. In this shift, I was the driver, so that's what I did. When Kyle was in the store, I would just navigate my phone, look at the people in the area, make sure there were no threats, make sure I wasn't parked in anyone's way, mostly wasting time. Well, one stop, Kyle came back and I was just finishing up writing an email. Apparently, Kyle wasn't too happy with me taking a few extra seconds to start going. Unbeknownst to me, he took a picture of me behind the wheel on my phone. I had no idea until the next shift came the next day, where management came to talk to me about texting and driving. I told them I had no idea what they were talking about, and my manager just said that he had proof I was doing it, and if I did it again, I would be written up. I went to talk to another coworker who is also the union rep to figure out what the heck was going on, and he told me Kyle took a picture of me yesterday and complained that I was doing it. I was pissed. Cue Malicious Compliance. My shifts with Kyle were 3 13-hour shifts, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Well, today was now Thursday, our last shift of this run, and this shift was not retail pickups. It was the run that takes all the money collected from the previous week and brings it to our provincial depot about 400 kilometers away. The entire run only has about 30 minutes of work and about 9 hours of driving. If you did the math, this is one of those runs where if you get it done quickly, if the traffic is on your side, you can get paid for a lot of unworked time. It was also the last shift of the week, which meant a long, gorgeous weekend in the middle of summer as soon as we were done. Well, I was going to make sure this shift lasted as long as possible. If he didn't want me to break any rules, I'd make sure I obliged. I drove exactly the speed limit the entire way. I even stopped for our 1-hour lunch break, which is given to us, but I had not witnessed anyone take in the years I'd been here because of the rules we had about pay. In fact, we were so behind, we reached the major city our depot was located in right at rush hour, something our early start time was designed to prevent. All in all, what should have taken about 9 hours to do ended up taking 14, an extra 5 hours where he just had to sit there and watch me in silence. To make things sweeter, a few times during the shift, he had to call his wife and let her know he wouldn't be home early enough to go to the cottage, and they would have to leave the next day instead. I heard from other workers how furious he was and how I'd ruined his plans for the weekend, and all I could do was smile. OP added an edit down at the bottom. It says, to clarify, where I live, going 15 to 20 kilometers per hour above the speed limit is standard. Going the speed limit will just get someone smashing into your rear bumper. Also, our trucks have a max speed of 105 kilometers per hour, and most of the drive is either 80 kilometers per hour or 100 kilometers per hour. Jumping down to the comments on this one, we have one from a user called TechNot. It says, the real question is, did he learn his lesson? Did you report him for being on his phone multiple times instead of monitoring the perimeter like he was supposed to? Opie responded and said, I can't speak for anyone else, but he never gave me a hard time again. Another commenter down below called Equivalent Salary 357 said, I hope he understood why you were driving slower. I'm not sure why nobody in the comments mentioned this, but why didn't the guy that OP was driving with mention anything to OP during that drive like, hey, we could go a little bit faster, or hey, do we really need to take that break? It's like there was no communication there. They just sat back and took it. They were very, very passive, calling their wife and saying they weren't going to make it. They had more experience there. They should have just said to OP, pick up the pace, or maybe I need to do the driving. Sometimes a small inconvenience turns into a much bigger moment, all over a single coin. This story comes to us from Rustic Crow, Aldi Quarter Fiasco. So yesterday, me and my wife went to Aldi for our weekly trip, but I forgot to keep our quarter in the car. Instead of trying to carry all our groceries around the store, I decided to try my luck and get change at the liquor store across the parking lot. So I walked in and waved to the kid and asked for some change. He gave me a little side eye and said no. To be honest, I'm not upset or surprised, but I figured I would try. As I'm walking out, I found some sugar-free soda my wife drinks for $2.24. Thankfully, I had $5 in my wallet, so I grabbed one, gave it to the kid, and asked for some quarters. The kid looks at me, rolls his eyes, and starts to ring me up for $2.76 in change. Now, I didn't think I was going to get a fistful of quarters, but as this kid hands me my change, he gives me $2 bills, a penny, 1 quarter, and a freaking $half coin. I didn't notice until I left, and I noticed how huge the coin felt in my hand. I know I'm the bad guy, so sorry, I guess. Personally, I just find it hilarious because I don't think I've owned one or held one in over a decade. Also, it made me think of y'all. Jumping down to the comments on this one, the most upvoted one here comes from a user called 16pack. It says, Aldi's cashiers always have change ready. Just walk in and they will hook you up. Another commenter down below called Bored Owl 1492 said, $half are still minted, just as $2 bills are still printed. They just don't circulate very often. You can always ask for both at your local bank. I personally like spending $2 bills for tips, so I ask for $200 at a time and never have any issues getting them. Just like the first commenter, I was wondering why OP went across the street to get their quarters when this is Aldi and they have carts you have to pay for, so you go inside and they have change. That's just how that works. I mean, if you think about it, they probably get requested for change hundreds of times every single day. So, OP, next time, just go inside. When a company decides to reward performance based on a curve, someone's bound to take that grading system a little too literally. This story comes to us from OKMarzipan3163. Performance on the bell curve? So for years, it's been in my micro brain that the 3 levels of performance at my work can best fit to a bell curve, with a very small percentage of people, less than 1%, who are headed towards a performance development plan, making up the left-hand tail, and the exceptional people, around 5%, making up the right-hand tail. I used to bend over backwards in my efforts, with long hours, weekends, events missed, etc., to earn those high marks and get only a slightly better raise. In my last performance review, however, I was told straight up that no one in our division will be getting an exceptional this year, as we don't have the workload to justify it. Okay, that's fine. I've reset my attitude, and I'll just aim for the lower end of the bell curve then. Need a volunteer for some unplanned, emergency work, or someone to help build a business case for this or that new concept project? Don't look to me. If you want me to work on anything, you'd better assign it. Need help orienting the new employee or showing them around a facility? Not me. Just enough performance to avoid a PDP and nothing extra. I preach this philosophy to others at work, and they think I'm crazy. If you want to give your soul to the company store, knock yourself the heck out. As a side note, there aren't layoffs in our industry as we stay busy enough, and we have a perpetual customer base. This is just your daily friendly reminder that if you're in a job where there's no hope of moving up, don't do the work for the people above you, because you're not getting paid for it. Keep a copy of your job description in your pocket, do what it says you're supposed to do, and that's just gonna have to be good enough. If somebody wants you to do extra work, make sure that there's a way for you to move up there, or at least a way for you to get paid for that extra work. Nobody gets anything for free. If you're enjoying these stories, make sure to follow the podcast or hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Carmen's still guarding that chocolate chip cookie, but they might share it if you subscribe. Alright, that's it. I thank you for watching and listening. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.